Now, there seems to be a certain dualism, of course, at play here always in Twin Peaks, as I mentioned before. And in the most fundamental sense and spiritual sense of dualism, it makes me think of the ancient Persian religious story of Mithra and Anahita. So Mithra being this metaphysical principle of light, and Anahita being the physical principle which reflects this light, or perhaps Mithra, the daemon, and Anahita is the Eidolon in us. Okay, so that there's this interesting Persian idea. Now, is this idea somehow related to the doppelganger theme found throughout Twin Peaks? I'm asking because it seems to me like Emerald and Jade and Laura and her cousin Maddie are examples of this light and dark doppelganger pairing that seem to endlessly reoccur in the story. So there's this interesting theme happening. And given that these fictitious characters on a TV show within a TV show, right, An Invitation to Love, reflect the relationship between Laura Palmer and her cousin Maddie, is Lynch perhaps suggesting that not only does time branch out infinitely in strange parallels, but the same should be true for dimensional space as well, which may suggest that realities of both space and time can be nested within each other, or, that is to say, in kind of the old Persian view, dreams within dreams. And you can't really distinguish the waking world from the dream world. And if you think you're awake in this world, but you're actually dreaming, and when you're sleeping and dreaming, you're actually in the real world, right? We can have worlds nested within worlds, and this is kind of the idea that Lynch is exploring with the Invitation to Love soap opera that's a TV show within a TV show. Now, let's get on to something really wonderful and really interesting that's going to tie into a couple of different works, not just Twin Peaks, but it's going to surprise. It surprised me. So the prolific French artist Jean Cocteau's film Orpheus, released in 1950. Okay, I haven't seen hardly anyone talking about this, but it was clearly a massive influence on David Lynch. And it's surprising to me that I found next to nothing on YouTube about this quite compelling connection. So the film, the full film is actually even available on YouTube. Last I checked, I mean it's well out of copyright, so you can watch it for free. Cocteau's film is a retelling of the Greek myth of Orpheus and Eurydice, but it has a few interesting twists. First, I suggest you just watch this movie, as it's quite wonderfully done. So if you haven't seen it, spoilers. So watch the film. So pause the video, go watch the film, then come back. Okay? Now I'm going to cover some of the common elements from Orpheus which appear in Twin Peaks, but unlike any other analysis of Lynch's work that has been done before, I'm going to introduce some completely new ways which link the work of Jean Cocteau to David Lynch and to the work indirectly of Philip K. Dick, as well as many other influential and important artists which are cited in Anthony Peake's book about the Daemon. Now, just to be clear, Cocteau and Philip K. Dick are mentioned in Peake's book, along with the likes of like Rudyard Kipling, Mary Shelley, Fyodor Dostoevsky, and others. So they're all relating to this compelling idea of the Daemon Eidolon dyad, which is the spirit and silo body pairing. And I'm going to show why David Lynch belongs in this conversation as well. So first I want to start with this wonderful painting. This painting is from Carl Goose. It was completed in 1826, and it's currently on display, I believe, at the National Gallery in Denmark. And this depicts the myth of Orpheus and Eurydice, a tragic love story where Eurydice is bitten by a snake and dies, and Orpheus pursues her into the underworld, and he manages to win her back from Hades with his musical abilities, but only under one condition, that he leads Eurydice back from the underworld and he must not look at her while he's in the darkness. Okay, he's holding her hand, leading her through the darkness, and this painting, of course, this depicts the moment that Orpheus steps into the world of the living, steps into the light. Okay, he's still holding his wife's hand. He turns around to look at her, but he's realizing to his horror that she is still has one foot in the underworld. She's in the darkness, as you can see here, and he loses her forever. Now, the parallel with Agent Cooper pursuing Laura Palmer into the underworld or the Red Room is an unmistakable and well-worn theme at this point. In the final episode, I should say, of season 3, Cooper is shown leading a young Laura Palmer through the woods, and then again at the final, later on in the final episode, he's leading an older Laura by the hand again. Now, what could this possibly be trying to tell us? Nothing seems to make sense until we use Philip K. Dick and Anthony Peake's way of looking at the nature of time, a view which is, of course, far older and seemingly from Vedic philosophy, to trace its origins as far back as we can. That's why I like to use Vedic philosophy, because it's the most fundamental reference point of these ideas, and so that's why I like to use that. But also, it's a beautiful philosophy. Now, the only thing that could possibly make sense is that we're being shown different versions of Agent Cooper's Eidolon as well as Laura's on an alternate branching or possibly even some sort of convergent timelines a la Philip K. Dick's theories, okay? So in Anthony Peake's work, in his book, to which it seems perfectly explains the experience of deja vu, he contends that timelines or events for the daemon can repeat over and over again, but can do a sort of branching into alternate events based on certain occurrences. Okay, things can change, so you live one life, and then you live the next life, but things change slightly, and maybe your daemon gives you a nudge or communicates to you, or some sort of events sort of slightly change, and that keeps going on and on and on, and all this branching. Okay, so what that means essentially is that the exact same life is never lived out exactly like the previous one. And this, but of course, in an infinite universe, it is possible as well for the same thing to happen. But it seems like, just given the base fundamental nature of reality, there's some sort of branching that's always occurring in some nuanced way. So this process usually remains hidden to the Eidolon, to the silo, right? Except for those anomalous events like the deja vu or the precognition, which both seem to be memories of future past, okay? Or some other triggering which occurs where the daemon's memory, which is now the daemon is fully aware of past events, okay? And it somehow transmits those past events to its doppelganger or double self, to its Eidolon, which explains perfectly at the end of the final episode of season 3, when Agent Cooper asks, wait, what year is this? Right? Then it triggers Laura's Eidolon to experience those traumatic events all over again. Even though this isn't Laura Palmer anymore, her secret double self, or twin peak as it were, remains eternal, is always the same, unchanged. Okay? You see where I'm heading with this? So the daemon of both Cooper, the spirit self of Cooper and Laura Palmer, remain eternal, remain linked forever. Okay, this is a fascinating implication. Okay, and so there's this transmission, this powerful transmission from Cooper. What year is this? The conversion happens. This thought form, or what Cooper is speaking enters, right? This thought enters Laura, or this woman who this is a different Eidolon. This isn't Laura's Eidolon, as Laura Palmer. And then she undergoes this conversion process, right? And then she's like screaming, and her daemon is signaling, oh wow, this was a very traumatic event. I do remember this, and it signals this to the Eidolon, and boom, it happens, right? It's just absolutely as clear as day to me, and this explains what we're seeing. So I'm adding this in from the future, putting this into the video, because I want to make it perfectly clear that the way that the original series Twin Peaks, the way that it starts, is almost identical to the way that it ends. But there's one interesting twist that David Lynch adds. So let's look at the very ending sequence of the return, and I'm going to show you exactly how and why this is just like the transmission, conversion, storage theme that's seen throughout, and it mirrors the opening sequence of the original season. So Cooper is having this moment, and he's, there's this silent moment where Cooper's Eidolon and Laura Palmer's Eidolon are sort of just standing around. They've just talked to this woman, and she's like, no, there's nobody here by that name, and that kind of thing. And they walk down the stairs, and they're in the street, and they're looking at this house, looking at each other. She's looking at him, and he's having this moment, and he says, wait, what year is this? Okay. And so that's the transmission. And then, of course, Laura's looking at the house, looking at Cooper, and after Cooper says this, she looks at the house again. She closes her eyes. She opens her eyes, looks at the house, starts screaming. So all of these traumatic memories come flooding in, and that, of course, is conversion. So we have transmission, conversion, and the last thing we're shown is the house, storage, the very last thing. Transmission, conversion, and finally storage is the last thing we see. However, there is a fine point to be made here. The house, at the very, very end, if you notice, there's a click or some kind of a signal or something, and the lights go off. Okay, so this implies a few things. You can say that Lynch is putting this one to bed. Finally, this is over. You could also say something about the process beginning again, or you can also say something, you can imply something about this three gunas principle in respect to space-time. So there's a lot of ways to see that, okay? But suffice it to say that the show begins with transmission, conversion, and storage, and it ends in the exact same way: transmission, conversion, and storage.